It's summertime, which means you're down to the last couple of sports that you can bet on, and you might be thinking, hey, this is as good a time as ever to start betting on MLB. And you would be right. But before you start hopping into baseball betting, there are a few really important things that we have to talk about. And the first and most important one is action versus listed pitchers. And I really don't hear people mention this when they talk about their bets. So what does this mean? Whenever you bet on the money line or run line in baseball, you're actually betting on what's called an action wager, which means no matter who actually pitches in that game, your bet will count as long as that game is considered official. Listed pitcher means that the pitcher you select has to at least throw the first pitch for your bets to count, otherwise your bet is void. Let's think about why that's important. If you were betting on the Chiefs to beat the 49ers and it's announced right before the game that Patrick Mahomes won't start, all of a sudden you may not like your bet anymore, or the odds should at least be much better than what you actually placed. This is the same kind of concept. Baseball is all about pitching matchups, and the pitcher is the most important player on the field. When you're placing these bets, you want to make sure the person you think is starting is actually starting. So, how should you use listed pitchers? Let's run through 3 scenarios. Scenario 1, let's say that you have a pretty good pitcher against a fairly bad pitcher, and you're betting on the team with a pretty good pitcher. Well, in that case, you want to make sure you select both listed pitchers, meaning both pitchers have to start, because that's the dynamic of the matchup that you're banking on. When you're making your bets, you want to make sure that the fairly bad pitcher you're going against isn't going to get swapped out for a really good one instead, and you want to make sure that your pretty good pitcher also doesn't get swapped out for someone who's not as good. Scenario 2 would be if you have an elite pitcher against an okay pitcher. You're really banking on the elite pitcher starting, so in that case, you may only want the one pitcher to be listed because you don't care who the other team throws out there, they're not going to be good as this elite pitcher. But again, if that elite pitcher doesn't start for some reason, you don't want to take your chances with some average pitcher instead. Scenario 3 would be if I have a really bad pitcher, let's say the worst pitcher in the league, and he's going up against an okay pitcher. Same concept. I don't care who the other team throws out there, they're not going to be as bad as the pitcher I'm betting against. So I just want to make sure that that one bad pitcher is the one actually starting. Now, there are some scenarios where you may not care who actually pitches, and an action wager is what you need. And really, those times are when you have a really good team against a really bad team. And no matter who the bad team throws out there, they're not going to be as good to beat the good team. So you're just fine with that action wager. But you just have to make sure you understand when you select a money line or a spread in the MLB game, you're actually selecting action wager, and you are at risk of those pitchers getting swapped out. I can tell you I've been burned on this early in my betting career, and that this happens fairly often, especially as you get into the middle of the season and beyond, where injuries start to pile up. All right, so in the next video, we're going to talk about what happens to your bets when a game ends early, which bets count, which bets don't, and what you need to know. And as always, good luck.